Welcome to CRE Power Hour, everyone. My name is Lisa Marie Wand, and my amazing co-host is Stephanie Gillison. And we've spent the last 2 decades growing and scaling our businesses. And together, we are bringing a new space for you to learn alongside the best in real estate at CRE Power Hour. And today, our amazing guest is Beth Azor, the canvassing queen out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Beth, we are so excited to have you on the show. And let's get right to it. Hi, Beth. Welcome, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Lisa Marie. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here.
I love this, Beth, because you and I had an opportunity to connect at Globe Street's Woman of Influence. And is it 34 years now in this business?
36. I'm well healed, Stephanie. 36.
36. Oh my gosh. I mean, that just blows my mind because one, it's 36 years in real estate, right? And you're still sane, but commercial real estate.
Yes.
I want you to take us all the way back to 36 years ago when you decided to do this, because we know you're only 41 years old.
Right. You know, exactly. I started when I was 5. I was hoping you'd catch that.
We started when we were 12, so you've got a leg up on us.
I joined a team in Miami, 11 people in the rookie training program, and they were teaching me how to lease office space. We had an opportunity to lease some shopping centers. They couldn't find anyone to hire to lease them. I raised my hand and I said, I think that sounds more fun than office leasing. And they said, okay, you can try. And about 2-3 years later, we had 17 shopping centers, and my boss was training me every night we would go through 1 or 2 pages of the lease line by line every night, because the lease is the Bible and you learn from that. I was a leasing agent and a property manager. Then I grew. We had so many shopping centers. I grew to hire a property manager, and then I started hiring junior leasing agents. I grew through the company. When the last 6 years I was there, I was the president. We had 130 people. And then in 2004, when my son was 3, single mom, I could not be the president of a large company that was headquartered in Miami, 45 minutes away from where I lived. So I semi-retired, and I had already started investing in real estate as a limited partner, but I wanted to go do it on my own as a general. So I opened my own firm to do acquisitions and cash flowing investments. And the phone started ringing with REITs and institutions I had worked with in my prior company, asking me to train their leasing agents how to fill vacancies in shopping centers. So I have this side hustle that I do that. And I've been doing that since 2004. And I own $80 million worth of real estate. It was 100, but I sold a deal 3 months ago. So I marked to market my portfolio. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So grew through a big firm, was there 18 years, and now have my own company for 18 years.
And doing that as a single mom, I was a single mom to twins when I was working, really hard in my commercial real estate business. So we actually can do it all and we can have it all, but maybe not always all at the same time, right? Because having children, having a family is a big responsibility. So we were talking before we started filming the show about how you love to give back and help coach and teach and train commercial real estate agents. Will you talk to us about that?
Yes, I'm probably on the phone 3 times a week with people wanting to get in the industry. I'm sure I've heard the podcasts and I've heard you guys say the same thing. And I try to help people figure out how to do that. I probably have 5 people a month that shadow me. I think it's really important for them to see the real deal, right? What it really takes. And then I make my network in South Florida allow people to shadow them. like I tell the students, if you call them and they don't call you back, you let me know. So I really want to try at 62 years old. Now it's about legacy and encouraging people, whether it's women to invest, whether it's students to get into our business. We don't get degrees. There are no degrees in college of how to be in commercial real estate. There's designations, but these kids that are graduating with their liberal arts degrees are not running and going and doing a CCIM. So I just had a young kid who just graduated Tulane called me an hour ago and said, I want to get in the business, but I don't know where to start. So I try to help those kids out, introduce them to people, and find out where their passion is, where I think that they could be successful. Every summer, I try to have 3 or 4 interns that come just spend the summer with me. I make them work, they learn, and one day, hopefully a lot of them are in the industry now. So I love seeing them at conferences and they say, I didn't even know about real estate until I worked, interned for you that summer. So it's important to give back and help people. Now at 62, I have the luxury. When I was 35, I was working Saturdays, nights, like you guys talked about in your podcast. I didn't have time to do that. I have the luxury now to be able to have time to do that.
And that's awesome. And you make that choice to do that because there's so many people in this world that don't want to help anybody succeed. They don't want to breed their competition, so to speak. So I love that because, I find every time I give, you probably do too. We all do. Every time we give, we win every single time. Beth, I want to talk about that because you've referred to yourself. Normally, I don't call out age. I told everybody you were 41, but you've said it a few times now that you're 62. And here's another thing that I love, because a lot of people that I meet that are my age, 45, 50, 60, whatever the case is, they have not really encompassed social media. And you are all over it. And I want you to talk about that because you're like this YouTube queen. You're trademarked. You've got a huge audience. Share that with people.
So this is very funny. So it was about 7 years ago. I was not on social at all, not personally. I had a site for my boys, like to kind of watch them, but I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. And my intern came to me one day and said, I think we should prospect on Facebook. And out of the words of the teacher mouth came, that's the most stupidest idea ever. And then I heard myself say that. I went, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, you go try that and see what happens. Terrible. And guess what? She signed a lease 3 weeks later with a chocolate store that I'd been after for 3 months. And so I said, oh, well, obviously there's something to this. And I got on Facebook, and then I got on LinkedIn, and then I got on Instagram, and now I'm on Twitter. And and I've been doing videos. People call and they want to get in the business, or they're young and they want, will you be my mentor? And I know you guys have heard this. We can't mentor everyone that we would like to. So I started doing these videos and I would just put them on YouTube. I think we have over 150, 200. And they were just like, I just say, go look at the videos, go watch the videos. Everything is there for free and it'll help you do your job better. But that's how I got involved in social media. And I would say that in the last 3 to 4 years, 50% of my leasing for my own portfolio, and every once in a while I'll take interesting projects, come from my direct messaging, my DMs on Instagram and Facebook to prospects in markets I don't live in, that I only travel to once a month, so I can DM them in advance and set up appointments. So I'm a big, and I like the branding part of it. I like the teaching part of it. So social media is networking on steroids. I mean, Stephanie, we talked about the ICSE. We could go and we could meet a couple hundred people in 3 days in Vegas, maybe 500 if we're really aggressive. And
walk I could 17 miles.
right, exactly. But we could do one post on LinkedIn and have 40,000 people see it. So it's
That's
networking on steroids.
That's right. And I love that because, both Lisa Marie and I, and you obviously too, we've built our businesses on and through social media. Lisa Marie actually teaches social media and got Instructor of the Year inside of EXP last year because most people in commercial real estate are like, y'all are fools for being on social media. So we love it when we know we're always right, but we really like it when some third party comes into the equation and we're like, look, she's doing it too. We're not crazy. And I always say to them, you know what? Don't trust me. Don't believe me. You keep not doing it so I can keep getting the business.
Well, congratulations, Lisa Marie. I had heard that on a prior podcast. My favorite line to clients that, when they call me and they ask me, they go, what do you think? And I tell them and they go, well, we're not sure. And I go, okay, no problem. You can be reluctant and not be relevant.
That's right.
Oh, that's great. You can be reluctant and not be relevant. Well, and I love the fact that all three of us are just cracking the commercial real estate world open and on its side, because I was talking to a commercial broker from the East Coast yesterday. We were having a phone conversation and he said a couple things that are the opposite of what we do. Number one is he said, I keep everything I do very close to the vest. So this was a guy I was talking to. And even in our conversation, I could hear how tentative he was. I mean, there's no secrets here, everybody. And then the second thing is, I don't think ever that person would help coach or train someone for any reason, even if they were paid, because there's this mentality in commercial real estate that everything is so secretive and that it's so competitive. And yes, there is competition out there, but I've always felt like there's more than enough business to go around. And I like to collaborate with other agents and brokers instead of compete with them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's, abundant thinking, right? There's plenty of business. There's not enough business for all of us to handle, especially, I don't know about Kentucky and it's Denver, right, Lisa Marie?
Nevada.
Yeah. So I don't know about your markets, but in South Florida, there's so much business to go around. Everyone's hiring. Everyone's looking for people.
Not enough brokers, not enough.
So I'm always of that belief that it's abundant thinking for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, scattered. Yeah. And Beth, you're doing business outside of Florida even, you just had a huge deal in Cleveland, take place. And we're all spread, all the way out across the United States, doing business. And I'm seeing that everywhere. Answer the phone, people, because that's how I get my business.
And how many times do we hear that one, Beth? I called the commercial broker and they never called me back. And I know we pick up the phone, like no matter what. And so that just by doing that sets us at the kind of the top of the pile, right?
How sad is that? I just showed space. I think last Friday, someone called and said, I'm here in your shopping center. I'm looking at a vacancy. When can you show me the space? I said, how about 10 minutes? And then I got there and he's like, I can't believe you picked up the phone. I can't believe you're here in 10 minutes. I'm like, well, and he goes, he said, he said, your client would really appreciate that. And I said, well, I'm the owner of the shopping center. So, but if I had a broker, they should do the same thing that I'm doing.
Yeah,
exactly. Talk to us, Beth, about your Cleveland deal. That was a huge deal.
So did you guys jump on the Clubhouse bandwagon during COVID by any chance?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I was on Clubhouse and as many of us were, and I'm like, how can I not monetize this, but how can I use this for the greater good? And I created something called Space Tank, where I connected landlords and small businesses. And we did 3 events where early on the shopping center owners were all freaking out that we were going to have 40% vacancies. So I got them to all agree, like 20 to 30 of my friends, that they would give 3 months free to an entrepreneur. And then I went into Clubhouse rooms like barbershops and hair salons and gyms, and I invited them to come over, and we had 3 Space Tank nights where we matched landlords and entrepreneurs all around the country. Well, unbeknownst to me, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers had one of their team members on one of those calls. And they called the real estate company of Bedrock and said, hey, I think I found the girl to help us with this mall that they have in Cleveland that was 17% occupied. And they called me up and they said, how would you like to lease a mall? I said, no. In Cleveland, double no. And I said, I don't really do third party. And they said, well, name your price. You need to come to Cleveland once a month. We have the All-Stars game coming up. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We don't want to be embarrassed. It's 17% occupied. And we just heard you match, 25 deals on an audio app. And I'm like, so I said, okay, I'll come look at it. Well, it's a beautiful mall it's downtown Cleveland, anchored by a Ritz, the tunnel to where the Cavs play, a Subway, and a casino. Like, what developer came up with that? I would have liked to have been in that room. And it's two sides under a public street. So the whole middle section is dark because it's under a public street that, by the way, leaks into the retail. So, but it's beautiful. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And we did a consulting assignment, not commission, because they're going to redevelop this into a convention center with hotels and restaurants, like a big project, in the next 10 years. So I'm limited to 1 and 2 year deals. So no brokers, no commissions. I said, okay, pay me this, pay for my travel, and I'll go knock on doors and canvas and DM. And it's been 18 months and we've signed 52 leases.
That is so flippin' awesome. From an audio app, you never know who's listening. You have this, we all on this call. I love this call today, by the way. This is so awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're always on an audition. That's always been my rule. We're salespeople. We're always on an audition. And you don't know who that audition is for until they flip and call you and do everything you say. And I love that.
And my other motto is coordinate the uncoordinated. Yeah. And I thought, I've got landlords who are freaking out calling me, what are we going to do? In the beginning of COVID, we all learned the only reason we had 3 space tanks is by the 3rd month, we all realized that retail was going to be the darling of the COVID result and not, there's no more discussion about retail being dead. So we ended up the demand dropped. Like my entrepreneurs keep calling me, where are the landlords giving me 3 months free rent? No, they don't exist anymore because they've filled all their spaces. But coordinate the uncoordinated. And I had my landlords calling me freaking out. I was on Clubhouse going into these rooms, listening how the small business and the entrepreneur was doing. And I thought, why can't I just start a room and see where it goes? Food and Beverage Magazine called me and they said, do you think your landlords have any restaurant space? I said, oh, you betcha. And I did a one with the Food and Beverage Restaurant Magazine, matching them with landlords. It was so much fun. And people were like, how much are you getting paid to do this? I'm like, I'm not getting paid to do this. I had COVID one of the nights and I was doing it. And they're like, and someone said, Beth has COVID while she's doing this. But I enjoyed the matchmaking and having the landlords bid for the retailers, having like a little tutoring lady that was in New Hampshire wanting to move down to Naples, Florida, and having 3 landlords going, we want you. It was fabulous.
That is so cool. It's like Match commercial. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's so cool.
And this Cleveland deal, of the 52 leases, 49 are Black-owned businesses. And of the 49, 47 are women, Black-owned. It's been
that's amazing.
It's been the most impactful thing of my career, 36 years. The most impactful thing.
Those are the best. Sometimes it's not always about the money. It's about the feeling you get, Yeah.
And having minority-owned businesses, and especially female and minority-owned businesses. I mean, no wonder that makes you feel good. Just the energy and the high vibe, the good feeling that comes out of that is phenomenal. And so that's part of your legacy too. Even though some of those leases they're shorter-term leases, that could be a springboard for those business owners, and also the landlord.
They're coming back to Beth for repeat business. We all know they are. I mean, why wouldn't they? That's
we
great.
have 4 that moved out, unfortunately didn't make it, but we have 3 that expanded. We have a woman's boutique that took 800 square feet. She just took 3,000.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and when I show up in the beginning, it was super hard, right? It was super hard. And we just had to keep pummeling it with the information, with the opportunity, with me. I visited in person 3,179 businesses. Every trip I went to Cleveland, one day would be for showings and 3 days I would be out in the community, and I would average 20 showings a visit. And now when I show up, and again, it's my soul is there. My soul is in Cleveland. They need to create a song like the San Francisco song.
Your heart's in San Francisco.
Yeah. So now when I go and I walk in, and I always show new tenants and prospect spaces, my tenants come running out and are hugging me, and they're telling you, listen to her. In the beginning, they were not sure. I mean, I had one prospect say, when I walk in their store, are you with the police? I'm in this, inner city community, and I'm blonde haired and blue eyed. I'm like, no, I'm the leasing agent from Tower City, from downtown. Now I walk into these businesses, they go, you're the girl from Tower City. I'm like, yes, I am. That's what social media and branding can do.
Absolutely. And so, Beth, we talk about this so often on this show. We talk about going back to the old school ways of how you do real estate. Yes, social media is a must, but there's also these old school ways. And not everybody that will see this episode or is watching live is going to understand, what does she mean by canvassing? We talk about this all the time. So share with them exactly what you're doing those days you're up there canvassing.
Break it down for us, Beth.
Absolutely. So in retail, we target uses. So for example, for Tower City, I wanted women's boutiques, women's shoes, men's clothing. I wanted a lash place. I wanted waxing. So what I do, because I'm in Florida, is for 3 weeks before I go to Cleveland, I will go to Instagram, or I'll go to Google, and I'll say barbershops in Cleveland. And up pops 30, a list of 30. And so I direct message on Instagram, and I say, hey, are you interested in a location in downtown Cleveland near the tunnel to the Cavs arena? Or for the lash lady or boutiques, do you want a location next to the Ritz in downtown Cleveland? So I do that. And through that direct messaging, they go to my social media site to make sure I'm not a scammer. And they go, oh yeah, we see pictures of her in Cleveland. So so probably I'll get 10 showings from that. So I'll have the showings, then I go to Cleveland, and then I go out into the community, and I have the list of the barbers that did not respond. And I'll just go and I'll like have a map, and I'll have 30 barbers, and that will be my focus. So I'll go to the barber shop, and I walk into the barber shop, and I've got 8 barbers turning to look at me. Yeah. And I go, hi, because I want to talk to the barber in the back, not necessarily the owner.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy who wants to open his own, right? I'll say, yeah. I have space in downtown at Tower City. Are you interested in opening another location? I never go in and ask, is the owner here? Because I don't want to insult the gatekeeper. So if I go in and, let's say it's a women's clothing store, and I say, is the owner here? And she's the owner. She's ticked off that why doesn't she think I'm the owner? If she's not the owner, she's saying, well, why doesn't she think I could be the owner? So that's kind of a lose-lose. I teach that. Never ask. And I know that the sales gurus say, well, you need to get to the decision maker. And my theory is you get to the decision maker a lot faster if you don't disrespect the person that you walk up to. Sure. So I always have a flyer, and like the person will say, no, thank you, I'm not interested. And I say, well, can I leave a flyer? Maybe you know someone, because, a flyer is important versus a business card, because the business card might have my information, but a flyer with pictures of the mall, with pictures of a former restaurant space, with pictures of a former urgent care, and let's say it's a former restaurant space, and there's a hood of this size, there's a grease trap of this size, there's tables, chairs, there's pictures, that says so much more than a business card. And I leave that. And then I put the information, I usually leave the store. Let's say this is a boutique next to the barber shop. I go into my car after I've canvassed the shopping center, and now I'm DMing the boutique that I didn't DM before. Hey, was just in your store. I'm in Cleveland. I leased Tower City, left you a flyer. So now I've had 2 touches with that prospect, and I put them in my CRM, and I tickle myself for the next visit. And so I'm all about targeting uses and going after those uses. And then while I'm in the neighborhood of the barbershop, then I see, here's a women's shoe store, here's a lash place, here's a brow place, here's a wings restaurant, here's a Chinese restaurant. And I will hit the shopping center and go into every single place and leave a flyer.
So awesome. I love this because, and I hope people are paying attention and watch this back, rewind it, watch it again, because that is why you sign 55 leases in a dying shopping center, because you're working the deal. You can't just stick a banner on the mall and say for lease and wait for people to come to you. True, great, successful. This is why she owns $80 million in real estate, because she's made enough in commission to buy $80 million in real estate. And she made that commission by really working her listings. I love it, Beth. I mean, that right there is what matters. There's a lot that matters, but that right there, if that's what anybody ever gets out of this, for us doing this power hour, that is the best thing that they'll ever implement into their business and truly be successful at commercial real estate.
And, follow up is crucial. So I just signed a bridal salon for 17,000 square feet. Huge deal. They're taking the former Brooks Brothers space. So I had found them in a mall and I had left a flyer and I DM'd them. And then I went back and left a flyer and then I DM'd them. And then I gave them 4 months off, and then I went back. And this time when I walked into the bridal salon, the owner was there. And she said, and I walked in its beautiful 10,000 square foot space. And I said, oh my gosh, you have to come to Tower City downtown. She goes, oh, I used to work downtown. Oh, I love Tower City. She goes, my lease is up in 2 months. And I said, awesome, great. So when do you want to come see space? And we ended up signing the lease. And while we were in the negotiations, I said, did you ever get my DMs or my flyers? And she said, I got the DMs. I thought they were spam. And no, I never got the flyers. So it's fine. I think I've heard you guys say on former podcasts, it's no, not now, right? It's no for now. Yes. So it's so important to follow up because her lease was up. She was negotiating for another space in an empty AutoZone building. She was going to move out of the mall and go in this empty AutoZone building. And I scooped in and stole her and got her. And she's killing it. And I leased 17,000 square feet of this beautiful former Brooks Brothers space that my client had said that space is unleasable.
Wow.
But you're like, watch me do this.
Right. It was the 5th visit. Right. And she said, didn't get my flyer and didn't even open the DMs because she thought it was a scam. So it takes a lot of different ways to use your toolkit
Yes, it does. Well, so here's I want to throw this in there because here's what I'm hearing. Agents and brokers reach out to me all the time going, I need access to the right things. We can subscribe to all kinds of data. And at EXP, we get a lot of data. But you're using Instagram. You're using your legs. And you're using a flyer. So it's not like you're spending thousands of dollars buying people's information.
And you're building a database along the way, a CRM for future use. And so, we've had several guests on recently, right, Stephanie, that have talked about the same thing that Beth has about getting out there and using your feet and using your mouth, because conversations are free. And I say relationships are based on conversations and conversations are free. So talk about the mindset, Beth, when you're out there, because, what I see in agents that I mentor in my office or that I've met over the years, I know Stephanie too, they get, they lose their energy. They lose their motivation when they're out there doing that. Maybe part of that's the way they start the conversation, but talk about your mindset, if you would, for our audience today, when you're out canvassing, prospecting, and, thinking about putting people with places, because that's essentially what you do, right?
Right. I'm a matchmaker. So 36 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, I found a guy by the name of Tom Hopkins. Do you guys know who that is?
Yes, of course.
So my boss took us to his course. I know I spent $1,800 that I did not have, put it on my credit card for the cassettes in the car. And he spoke about residential, and I wasn't in residential, but I took the information and applied it to what I did. And one of the things, and I tell all my juniors this all the time, is he said, tracking is so important. And he goes, how many people do you need to canvas to get a showing? And then how many showings to get a deal? So let's say back then it was 100 people I had to show space to get a deal. Well, and how much is your typical commission? $3,000. So that means it's $30 for every door you knock. So for every door I'm jazzed because I just get to go do this for a living, and how fun. I like to talk, so you can see that. So I just like to meet people. So, but back then it was hard because I didn't have, I have way more than 10,000 hours in canvassing, but back then I didn't. And so I did what he said. And when you leave and you get the no, you say, thanks for the $30. And you go to the thanks for the $30. You assign a number to how many do I need to get, how many no's to get to the yes, to get to the check. And then calculate that, okay, I'm number 80. I've gotten 80 no's. That means I'm at $2,400, and in 600, in however many more, 20 more visits is going to be my magic number. Because if you track your numbers, you're going to know what your odds are of how many door knocks equals a showing equals a deal. So that's how I motivated myself back then. How I knew it was, just like, the Sharon Lecter book, diamonds in your backyard, you're like a foot away from the diamond. Like, so many people give up when they've gone out canvassing. Like, people say, well, canvassing doesn't work. No, okay. And they say that to me, by the way. I am the canvassing queen. Mm-hmm. And they say that to me where it's clearly worked. So I go, really? Well, what do you mean by that? How many times have you gone? Well, I went once and it was awful. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it doesn't work for you, because anything takes much more time than just once. So, but that's what I tell people when they're first starting, of how they keep motivated, is have the number in mind. And then don't give up until you've done that number, and see if those numbers play out. So thanks for the $30. And you get information, and you get to hone your craft, and you get like, I learned that the lash people want to talk about the Ritz, and the sneakers people want to talk about the tunnel to the arena. So and I used to leave going, okay, that was great. What did I do that was so great? Oh, I asked this. You just learn. And I say to people, how long do you want to be in this business? Young people, like, let's say 28. Well, probably 30 years. Well, then you need to be learning. And every obstacle and everything that you come across that is hard, if you learn and you ask questions, and you ask questions of yourself, or you videotape yourself, or you cold call, or you work with a team, and everything that you can overcome is going to make you better, so that by the time you're 5 years in and you've got 25 years left, you're better.
That's right. And you learn by doing. We can all learn by listening, but until we apply it and take action, it doesn't do any good. I always say, you can't have muscle by sitting in a seminar listening about how to lift weights. You still got to go to the gym and lift weights. So I love that you took Tom Hopkins, 100% residential, applied it to commercial, because Lisa Marie, you and I've done that too. I mean, we have, because back when we got going. Yeah, back when we got going in this business, I mean, there are some more now, and thanks to people like you, Beth, who are out there actively coaching through YouTube. But, back in the day, before YouTube, before the internet, 1999, when I got started, nobody taught anything about commercial. I learned by doing.
Yeah. And, like one of my favorite coaches, Tony Robbins, says that repetition is the key to mastery. And how cool would it be, Beth, for these new or experienced agents that are embracing some of these techniques to say, okay, now I have to knock on 100 doors to get that check. But when I'm tracking myself, now I'm at 75 doors or 60 doors. And so you're bridging the gap and getting closer to your goals in a much quicker way, and a more experienced way. And that's very powerful, right? To be able to see the shift that's happening and how you're able to service your clients and get yourself to the finish line, everybody to the finish line. And for you to get your check, you're more than your fair share. What I like to say is we like to earn more than our fair share in this business, in a much more expedited manner. I love that.
Well, and look, if you want to tell your client, hey, I canvassed 80 people this week for you.
Yeah.
I cold called 101. My client, they didn't know what they got when they got me. I started sending reports of 300 people. I have 17 showings next week. What? We haven't had a showing here in 6 years. So when you track what you're doing, it will work, because it is a numbers game, as long as you're getting better with every repetition, every rep that you do. But I had clients. I had one of my clients call me, and she goes, "Oh, I'm really upset. I'm going to lose this listing, this shopping center listing I have in Albuquerque. I don't know what to do. I'm so embarrassed. It's a big institution." And this friend of mine, she had a team of about 8 leasing agents. And I go, well, and she had a broker on site out in Albuquerque, and they were in Alabama. And I said, well, you need to go out there and do a canvassing day with your team. And she goes, what? I go, take your 8 people and tell your client you're doing it. Send me all the targeted uses you want. I'll start DMing. I'll get on a call with your team and show them how I'm DMing, so that you can get some upfront action before you even go there, and tell your client you're doing that. I said, you're going to learn so much about your team that 2 days that you're flying to Albuquerque canvassing. You need to be canvassing with them, Miss President. And you're going to learn more about the property, more about the consumer. You're going to be at the property at all different, peaks of the day and night. Your broker on site needs to come on the canvassing trip. And then you're going to take pictures and send them to your client while you're doing it. And then you'll send them a report after. They got 4 leases from that trip. Not only did they save that account, they gave them 2 more shopping centers in 2 other markets. And now it's part of their strategy. But again, telling the client, this is what I'm doing. Because, there are, not us, but there are commercial agents that take listings and, they don't really aggressively or proactively work the listings. And for those of us that do, it's important to communicate that with our client. They're not wondering, why isn't it? Look, if I never leased a space at Tower City, they absolutely knew I was doing the work. And so for whatever reason, if we weren't lucky and successful, it would have been some other reason.
It's so important to give that. Well, you've got social proof. All 3 of us do, because we're out there on social media. It's such a good reminder to show the proof of the work that you're doing. This is a simple industry. It's not an easy industry. And so setting yourself apart and showing your client what you're doing, it's a phenomenal reminder. And, with social media, you can be out canvassing and take a picture with a business owner and put some hashtags and tag them there. And that gives them some marketing, and it also gets you out there showing what you're doing. I could just totally see that happening. It's fun. I really like it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Well, this has been awesome, Beth. Well, first off, we have to have you back on, because this has been, I love this. I love just being bait. It's so much information, but it's so valuable. And I hope that whoever watches this has taken and takes these, what they're hearing from us today, what they're hearing from Beth, implementing it in your business. And when you win something, send us a message through LinkedIn or Instagram and tell us about it. And then we want you on the show. That's what this is about. How much great information can we spread so that we are all powerful in this industry and successful? So Beth, thank you so much. You are Yes, I know you've trademarked the Canvassing Queen, but you just might as well add hashtag badass next to it, okay?
Hashtag
Love
badass matchmaker.
Love it. And thanks for having me, ladies. It's been so much fun. And Stephanie and Lisa Marie, will I see you this year at the Women of Influence event this summer?
Yes, I will
Yes.
be there.
It's
Utah
the
or Lake Tahoe. It's Lake Tahoe. So Lisa Marie, it's in your neighborhood.
in my
basically.
backyard. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Beth, I just love your energy. Stephanie and I are higher energy as well. And the three of us together, we made some pretty good secret sauce today. So thanks so much for being our guest. And we look forward to having you on again.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.